Welcome to the CEO Bros Podcast, After Hours, with Brian Baldoff, co-founded, grew, and sold VHT Studios. Brad Baldoff, CEO and co-founder of By Your Side Autism Therapy Services. Matt Croak, the consummate entertainer, jack of all trades, and serves as our host.
Just driving around, my eyes just started going.
So I've heard from so many people that allergies are worse than ever. And I have horrible allergies and I've been fine for some reason. I don't know if it's my, like the 7-year cycle. Did you ever hear that? That like every 7 years your body changes?
I haven't heard that, but my allergies totally have changed and it's nuts. I don't know what's going on. But
not in a good way.
But hey, welcome to CEO Bros After Hours.
Nice.
Good to see you.
Friday night.
Tonight, we're going to be talking about a couple things. We're going to be talking about employee management, and we're going to be talking about time management. And I'm going to give you some kind of like tactical approaches to those. And I think it's important because if you're a new business owner or you're a department leader and you've got to be managing employees, whether you have 2 or 50, you probably want some approaches. So we'll talk about that.
All right. Is this because I was late today, or?
Yeah, we worked out that agenda way ahead of schedule. But I know you mentioned something about.
Yeah, since we talked about marketing a week or two ago, I saw something that I thought would be interesting. I'm not going to diss a sponsor, trust me.
Don't diss a sponsor.
So I'm assuming everybody has seen Coca-Cola's new program. Where
you have another show and tell.
I always break show and tell. So they're putting people's names on the bottles and cans now. Have you seen that?
That's actually not, Brian. That's an old advertising. That's been going on for years. I know
they've been doing it for years, but
Brian's so excited because he's got his.
They kicked it off again recently.
Okay, so they used to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Well, and they brought it back. It must have been successful. I don't know if everybody buys their own bottle, or I really don't know the point of it. It's interesting, but the point of my story is I was on a flight last week,
right?
And the flight attendant's handing stuff out, and I said, "Oh, I'll have a Coke." And so she indiscriminately is just passing out these cans. She didn't give people their names. Look at what was on mine.
Bro.
Nice. That's a sign. Like, CEO, I got to bring this into CEO. So I'm a CEO, bro. And
you had this or you found this.
I found that.
But she gave you that.
She just gave it to, just pulled it out of the pile, hands it to me. I'm like, bro, I didn't even think about I'm like, what? How would you give me a can called Bro? Like,
I appreciate that. That's actually cool. That's cool. That was on the way back from Arizona.
Yeah. It is,
nice, bro.
I mean, that's not somebody's name, I don't think, right? But anyway, I thought that was cool.
And also, I have this can that says CEO.
CEO, right?
Bro. No.
I'll look for that one.
We don't have.
Wait, hold it up and smile for the camera.
There it is.
Take a picture, Amber.
Beautiful.
So I'll leave them right there.
Yeah, actually, you know who would appreciate that? Matt would have appreciated that.
Oh, yeah. Where is Matt? I didn't even realize
what's kind of strange is he is supposed to be here. Amber,
I thought so. He's usually here for these shows.
Amber, I noticed when I got here, you had the chairs set up differently. There was only 2 chairs. There wasn't 3.
I just sat down and got started.
You don't remember him saying he wasn't going to be here?
No.
Matt is off today. He is off the clock.
I've seen Matt on Facebook like the last 20 days all over the United States posting videos and stuff.
Claiming he'll be here.
I assumed he was coming back
for our next episode.
He said, "Oh, I forgot."
So for anybody that thinks that any of these podcasts are structured, they're not, because we're gonna have to wing this one without.
Will you be Matt tonight?
I'll try to be Matt. No, I actually. We're gonna have to do this a little bit on the fly without Matt. We were expecting when you get here, there's 3 chairs. I'm always expecting.
I
Matt.
just sit down and start talking. I didn't even notice. Like, sorry, Matt.
Sorry, Matt.
Just kidding.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's actually perfect timing to talk about employee management. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this topic up is because I was thinking through the years as I have started business, ran businesses, managed businesses, that in almost every case I've had employees. In some cases, just a few employees. In other cases, multiple employees, and now
or hundreds. Yeah.
Currently 550 employees or so. But the one thing I always get asked by people, or as we're providing guidance or direction to leaders within these companies, is, people they're not trained to become managers. They get elevated into leadership roles. They get elevated into management roles, and they need crash courses on how to actually manage people effectively. And
most companies don't do that very well. I mean, they just promote the person who was doing the best job and say, okay, you manage your peers and good luck. And
that happens a lot. For those of you that are out there starting new businesses, you maybe have an employee, the employee develops into someone that's really highly productive for you, does a great job. And then now you're going to be hiring more employees, and you're like, okay, you're going to manage those people coming on. And just because they're a good doer doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a good leader or manager. And so it made me think about, through the years, like, what are some of the things that I have found myself telling younger leaders that have to manage employees, and they say, hey, do you have any tips of the trade? Do you have any things that you do in managing employees? And I thought through it, and I'm like, I actually do. And it's something that I have used for 25 plus years. And it all relates to kind of these 4 boxes that we'll put up on the screen, but we have
a framework on how to manage.
Yeah, if you think of it from the concept, to keep it really simple, every single employee can be categorized one of 4 ways. And if you can effectively categorize each employee into one of these 4 buckets, we'll call them. So we got 4 squares up here on the slide, up on the screen. You can take a look. And then you measure them on.
I'm just going to look here.
You can look there, but okay. for our viewing audience, they can follow up here. They don't have the luxury of this, but they fall in one of 4 boxes. But you evaluate them on 2 kind of key categories.
Axes. There's like a
So think of a horizontal axis and a vertical axis, and the vertical axis, think of their competency. Are they lower in competency? Meaning, are they newer? They don't know the material. They don't know the job. They're I always joke around and say they're green beans. They're just figuring things out, right? And or are they more higher in competency? Are they understand their job? They understand the things they have to do. They have a high level of, being able to pick things up, and typically people fall in like, hey, they're just learning. They're just starting off. They still have a lot to learn, or no, they've been with the company for a long time. They're highly educated in this.
I was going to say, is this specific to the role? Like I'm new to this particular job or task, or is this kind of intelligence and ability? No,
it's really with the job that you're asking him to do, or him or her to do. You're basically saying, are they competent within the capacity that you're asking?
So low competency is not a bad thing. It's an opportunity for improvement.
That's correct.
Or I guess it could be
It could be.
Okay.
But to think of it as, in simplest ways, is it like they're newer, they haven't learned a lot, they're just trying to get all aspects of their job down. They fall into this lower competency, right? Again, doesn't mean it's bad. It just means lower competency, a lot more to go, right?
More hand-holding, more education, more supervision, exactly. Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
And then think of a higher competency person as somebody that probably very little hands-on you have to, because the person understands the job. They have a great aptitude. They pick things up easy, and they are very effective within their job.
More independent.
Yeah. And so that's one way of categorizing employees. Like, is there a lot to learn? Think of it this way. Is there a lot to learn? Or they understand their job pretty well, and they're actually functioning well.
So in terms of hosting a podcast, I'm in the low competency box right now.
We'll say that you're lower. No. It's on a podcast standpoint, we could both say that we're, but you're not really an employee. So that's a whole different story.
But if I was, I'm still learning.
If you're you're an employee.
I didn't even notice Matt was missing. So
you're an employee, you're working on the lights, you're working on editing, you're working on production, you're working on whatever other aspects of the job we want you to be doing. and you're just learning. Okay. So that would be lower in competency. Okay. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's just that's how we categorize where you're at. The second aspect of it then relates
to the other axis.
So let's talk about the horizontal axis. Relates to the attitude of the employee. Are you dealing with somebody that's got a great attitude, high? Let's think of it from a behavior standpoint. They're really they're into their job. They want to digest info. They want to learn. They've got a great attitude about coming to work every day. Or are they somebody that is not somebody, low energy, doesn't really care about the job, poor attitude, non-existent attitude? If you think of it, you can put people into, does that person have a lot of energy and really care about their job? Or do you got people that are in your workplace that are like, they don't really seem to be enthusiastic about what they're doing? And so you don't necessarily have to call poor attitude, but it's a lower attitude, right? And so what's interesting is, as you look at these 4 boxes up there, based on where the employee fits in these boxes, if you can start to categorize an employee as low attitude or high attitude, low competency or high competency, it will give you direction as a manager or a leader how you should be managing that employee on a day-to-day basis.
How you set goals for them, what your expectations should be, communications, day-to-day interactions, even reviews, probably, right? I mean, and
I have found myself talking to leaders, managers, people within my company where my questions are all geared towards categorizing the employee. Because as soon as I find out where the employee is categorized, if they say, Brad, I'm not really sure what we should do with John, or I'm not really sure what we should do with Betty, I'm not really sure what we should do with A-Rex. It's as soon as you say, someone asks me a question like that, I say, tell me a little bit about the employee. And it's all about the attitude and their behavior, or it's about their competency and understanding of the job. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I understand that, I help the leader categorize where the employee is.
So here's a question for you. So I've seen other frameworks, 9-box and colors and things like that. Do you share this with the employee during reviews or ever?
I share this with the managers and leaders within our company, but not the employees themselves.
So you're not going to tell an employee, hey, you're in box 2?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, they should get the gist from the communications that you have to them. I would assume if somebody's got a bad attitude when you're talking to them, it's...
You'll see why in a second, as I tell you what we should. So now we have gone through and we've effectively bucketized these employees. Every employee goes into one of these 4 squares.
So here's another question. Sorry,
No, please fire away. And I've been doing this for probably the better part of 25, 30 years. And you've mentioned there are other management type grids and ways to manage. And I have found over and over again, it's uncanny how when I go back to this, every employee fits into one of these 4 grids, and they should be managed in this way that I'm going to talk about.
So do you collaborate with the manager frequently or regularly, like go through the employees and say, okay, let's talk about John, and have the manager say, I've got John in box 1. And you say, I think John's box 3. And try to come to some agreement, or how do you arrive at the? Because
the manager just because this exercise is really meant to provide my managers and leaders, hey, if you want like a little bit of a kind of an easy directional
guide
on how to manage your employees, or if you're struggling with managing employees, because remember we talked about many times you're thrust into a job, and all of a sudden you're like, you're going to be managing this group of 10 employees, and they're like, where do I start? How do I even get going? I'm like, let's categorize your employees. Not me. You categorize your employees.
Them, right.
And then by doing this, I'll show you how you can functionally provide direction, coaching, counsel to those employees and be effective in it. And I think that the leaders that I've told through different industries through the years have all after the fact said to me, hey, that really worked. I actually do that with all my employees.
So probably the first lesson there for a new manager is you have to manage different individuals differently.
Absolutely.
You can't just treat your entire team the same way.
It is definitely not a cookie cutter approach for every single employee you manage the same way. You have to meet the employees where they are to dictate what type of style they'll require to be the most productive employee you want. But you'll see too, from the standpoint of how you approach it, is that the other thing too is you can fall in these 4 boxes, but you also can move from box to box. So you could actually start in one box, and then it's a fluid process. So this isn't like once Brian is in this box, he's forever in that box. He just happens to be in that box when I've categorized you. But over time, you could move from one box to another, and it then dictates what type of style I should be managing.
Like Amber was saying, she had a bad attitude for the last week or so. And then when the sun came out, she now has a good attitude.
She didn't even fit in any of these boxes. It was such a bizarre situation.
It's never happened.
Yeah,
25 years.
We didn't know what to do with Amber.
It didn't fit in a box.
No. Actually, so I'll give you a great example.
Seasonal depression.
Yeah. How can it be? The weather is so beautiful out and everything.
Well, no, now she said she's.
It's great. It's great. Attitude's great. So
we've done something like this in the past, more around. Specifically communication. A similar idea, like how do certain employees need to be communicated to? There's some people that need to have a conversation, some people who prefer email, some people who show me, kind of learning. So I guess this framework you're going to show applies to kind of everything.
It does. And I think you said a few podcasts ago, you're like, hey, I don't know how Brad's doing these multiple things all at the same time. It's really because I am compartmentalizing a lot of different stuff. One is how I'm managing employees. 2, on the time management side, what am I doing with time management? And what you'll see is after I go through these, you'll be like, well, that's pretty simple. Well, that's pretty basic. Well, that's you would think common sense, but people don't do this. And if they did, they would find that they get their time back. They would find that employees actually appreciate how they're being managed because you're meeting them where they are, right? So bottom line is I have used this for years. I would recommend it to others. Are there other ways of managing employees? Could you read, can you take courses? Can you read manuals? Can you read all these different things?
There's a lot of theories, practices.
Sure. I'm just telling you real life, what I've experienced through multiple industries over probably 25, 30 years. This has been effective for me. So
I just picture you in the future with the smart glasses on, and every employee you look at shows what box they're in.
Yeah. So let's talk about, all right, high competency, an employee, great attitude. So you got somebody that's a great attitude and somebody that is...
Let me guess. Protect them at all costs.
Leave them alone.
Uh-huh.
Leave them alone. They are probably independently successful on their own. They're probably...
You don't want to leave them alone too much. They might leave.
No. What I mean is...
I know what you mean. You don't have to hand
the point is they're probably self-starters.
Yeah,
they're people that motivate themselves. They get fired up. They want to win contests or incentives if they're salespeople. They want to stay extra. They want to stay longer to help people because they're motivated. They're driven. They have taken time to understand their craft. And so you got somebody that is highly effective, understanding their job, and extremely excited or has the right attitude. You do not want to be... 2 things. You don't want to be spending a ton of time with those people because they're self-starters. And secondly, you're wasting your time by spending time with those people. And in fact, the biggest error that managers make is by spending a lot of time with these people. It's the path of least resistance. Why wouldn't you not want to spend your time with somebody that you don't have to do anything for, right? I mean, these are the people that they are killing it. They're doing great. These are the people that are just meeting every productivity measurement. Their attitude's great. They are the the rare employees in your office that are constantly going over and beyond. Leave them alone from the standpoint, or just encourage them. Hey, Brian, you're doing a great job. I recognize what you did yesterday. Just wanted to tell you, keep it up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This is also like the perfect employee to steal from a competitor.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
That's where the word poach came from, right? So So that type of employee, that employee is meant to be in a category where you don't need to manage much. You check in with them. You basically say, do you have what you need? And I appreciate everything you're doing. You're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah. Hopefully they set the bar for all the other employees.
Pretty self-explanatory. Now we go to the next one, which is you have a poor attitude or a non-existent attitude, but you're high functioning. Okay. Now, typically,
we talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
Typically, this person is someone that's been with your company for a while, and the person's been in their job. They get their job. They understand it, but their attitude's kind of fallen off. And your job completely changes as a leader with this type of employee. This type of employee, you have to find what actually motivates them. There's something that they get up in the morning and they're not driven anymore. And the sooner you can figure out what that person needs to be motivated, it could be money. It could be a promotion. It could be they need a pat on the back. They're not appreciated ever.
Right.
You don't know.
New challenge.
It could be a whole host of things. But what you have to do as an effective manager or someone that's managing a group of employees is you have to figure out what actually motivates this type of employee, because this employee, you don't have to teach them the job, but their attitude's not where it normally is. And there's something that's throwing off that attitude. And typically when you zero in on the motivation, that drives it. And those are employees typically, like I said, they've been with you for a while. They may have been doing the same job for a while. They may just need a different environment. They need a different department. Challenge them with something different.
Scenery, change of pace.
Yeah, exactly. So
I need a vacation.
That's that group. Now you get somebody with great attitude, low competency. This is your typical new employee. This is somebody that's just come in, started the job in the last couple of weeks, maybe last week or so, doesn't really know what they're doing yet, but they're excited that they're there, right? Mm-hmm. And that type of employee, I mean, everybody can envision that employee. They just start, they got how you always say, bushy tail, bright-eyed employee coming in, can't wait to start, can't wait to get going. Doesn't know much though.
Right.
They need to understand the job. What do you do for somebody like that? You have to direct them. You have to provide them specific things you want done. I want you to do this, this, and this. I want you to go function. I want you to go focus on these 10 things. Focus on these 3 things, because they don't know what to do.
Yeah,
but they're excited, right? And so
take advantage of the good attitude and the willingness to learn and try things.
Yeah, and these, like I said, this is typically a newer employee, someone that comes in, because you don't usually start a new employee and come in with a bad attitude. Someone doesn't usually start day one with a bad attitude, but if they do, category 4, and a lot of my leaders, when I show them this grid, when I get to here, it's really interesting to see their reaction when I show them this. I'm like, so now you got a poor attitude and you're low competency.
Get rid of them.
That's what I was going to say, Amber. Yeah,
you remove,
you were right,
and exit. Now the key to this is get them out quickly, and people don't do that.
Right.
They let it linger. Everybody has experienced an employee in the office where, man, they don't know what they're doing, and they're detrimental to the rest of the members of the team. What is this person doing here? You have to remove that person from your organization. So as you look at it, all your employees, if you think about, Brian, from the days of VHT Studios, or if you've worked at a restaurant or bar, or you've worked at a small shop, or you've worked at a bigger company, whatever, every employee fits into one of these 4 categories in some shape or form. And for a newer manager, or a manager that's inexperienced in doing something with employees, or like, how do I manage them? If you categorize these employees into 4 things, in these 4 buckets, you have a higher likelihood of giving them the direction, coaching, counsel they need to be effective in their jobs. And I've been doing this for, like I said, 25 plus years. What I've also heard from people is like, yeah, I'm a new manager. What should I do? Well, treat people the way you want to be treated. Well, I want to be treated great. Okay, well, that's not really good direction. Or don't micromanage your employees. It's like, okay, yeah, but I want to make sure they're doing it right.
Those are generalizations.
But that's the kind of coaching and direction, new leaders get. And that's not really giving. I mean, you can't use that kind of direction. How would you like to be managed? Okay, well, are you, it depends on the attitude. It depends on where you are competency wise, but you can actually see that there's 4 buckets you fall into. And I think that if everybody attempted to categorize their employees in this way, they would at least have a blueprint for a plan of, hey, when such and such comes in the office tomorrow, I have a plan.
Yeah, at least I know what I'm working with and from. And I feel like we talked about number 2 a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember the topic, but Matt, what's our host's name? Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Had asked about
Matt. Where is Matt, by the way? Do we know, Amber? Do you know where Matt is again?
He had asked about.
He is not here.
Maybe
I noticed you took.
Matt's with the Pope.
Maybe he's watching.
Matt's with the Pope.
Right, he's in Rome.
Matt is with the
new Pope.
With that, we cannot confirm or
But
deny.
he had asked a good question. He asked a lot of good questions about what happens when you have a high performer, but they're a cancer. And I had said, fire them. My assumption was after you try to correct their behavior and motivate them.
Yeah,
but if you can't figure this out,
This just gives you a blueprint.
Decision.
This to the point you just made. That's a good question. Or a good point is that people are you bucketize, you categorize these people into these buckets. Okay, now you're like, okay, now I'm going to give them direction. I'm going to manage them. Well, guess what? Number 2, someone with a bad attitude, high competency could, after multiple times talking to them, become someone with bad attitude, low competency, because now they're not picking up the new skills they need for the job. They're unwilling to learn their job.
They're kind of coasting, and they've become an ass or a, Usually where you see this is somebody's very good at their job, but they're not good with people. They're not good with their peers. They're abusive or they're abrasive or whatever, and the team doesn't like them. And that really creates a weird dynamic.
The functionality of their job has changed over time. And it's like, hey, Brian, I know that that's what you used to do, but your job now requires that you're going to do this. And you're unwilling to learn the new functions of the job. So your competency has gone down and you're unwilling to learn it. So your attitude is poor. So you have just slid from, you're now, in this bucket, and you're moving into the lower right of the squares. And it's like, guess what? I've tried multiple times. My now plan for you is I need to remove you.
Right, you're heading towards the wrong door.
Yeah. And so again, keep in mind that these are squares by categorizing these employees. They can move within the squares. It is fluid. But if you're a newer manager or you're a newer business owner and you start hiring employees and you have to start figuring out how do I manage my employees? It is not one size fits all. And the sooner you can bucketize or categorize your employees so that you know how to meet them where they are and provide effective management, you have a better chance of succeeding. So it is something that I wanted to share. And ironically, we're talking about employee management. It's the same exact thing. I'm not gonna go into each one as what I just did with management of employees, but looking from a time management side, right? If you're looking at the importance of something on the vertical axis, right? You got the vertical axis, you've got importance, and then you've got an urgency. How soon does this need to get done? So how important is it versus how soon does it need to be done should dictate to you within 4 boxes as which way you should go. This grid is actually called the Eisenhower grid, and it's actually used specifically for time management, but it's kind of ironic that there are a number of different things that I use this 4-box system for. And we just talked, the main one is employee management, but this one is for time management. If you have something that's extremely important, extremely urgent, you do it now. You got to get done. I think you mentioned probably 5-6 podcasts ago where you said the private equity firm was like, no, this is something like you can't wait on this. This is this important.
Right.
It's this important. It's this urgent. You have to go do this right now. That would be an example of that, right? Is it something that lower importance, but still has to be done? Maybe you've got multiple things that you're juggling on. You have a team of people, or you have people you're working with. Is it something that can be delegated? Can you actually delegate it to somebody else? If it's something that's important, but it's got less urgency, Okay, well then let's schedule time to do it. It doesn't need to be done today, but let's schedule time for it. And likewise, just like the employee that's poor attitude, low competency, if you get something that's not urgent and it's not important, you need to delete it out of your life. You need to eliminate it. And I think people spend a lot of time on, the 80-20 rule where, 20% of your life is being spent on things that just they don't have really an impact or important in your life. Get them out of your life. You don't need to be doing those things. Just delete it altogether. So I just, from the standpoint of, I was thinking through, I've had questions come up from current leaders, current managers, my team. I've had people that have worked for me in the past, and they've asked me like, well, as you're getting more and more employees, do you do things different? And I said, no, it's the same exact way, even for your leaders. So
right.
there are leaders that are
managers,
new,
yeah.
They're highly great attitude and they're still learning the job. And it's like, okay, I need to direct them,
Yeah, we had that with, a lot of businesses go through that life cycle of you need managers to manage employees. And then as you get bigger, you need managers to manage managers, which is a completely different role in a company and responsibility, right. But same general approaches.
And any employee in the company, whether they're the lowest rung on the employee or they're a senior leader, I still look at it the same way. I think in my head, is this person where they are in their competency and where they are in their attitude, and then I will chameleon my style to managing those employees based on where I've categorized them. So this just gives everybody out there. We don't need to beat this one to the death. This
reminds me of I had an engineer when we worked at the phone company who applied something like this to pieces of paper on your desk. He said, don't ever touch a piece of paper more than once. When you pick it up, either get rid of it,
file it,
do it, or like you said,
it's a great point.
Schedule it.
Think about it. It's a great point. Otherwise they get stacked.
It just keeps getting stacked. You keep picking up the same piece of paper and going, I'll do that later. And they never go away. Even if you just have to take like 15 minutes at the beginning of the day, 15 minutes at the end of the day and go, all right, I'm going to go through these papers and just boom. It's either garbage, delegate it, I schedule it for later, or I just get the freaking thing done now.
And you'd think, man, when I see this seems so common sense, but it's like if you get yourself in the habit of approaching your time this way with what's up right now, you have 5 employees, well, how do I manage them? The biggest fault I see in the employee side is the people that are highest competency people with the best attitude. Managers spend the majority of their time with those people, and you should not, because they're the self-starters. They're the most productive. They're the ones that are going to get it done with or without your direction. They're going to get done, but because they're the path of least resistance and they're the easiest for the managers, that's where the managers spend. You should be spending your time on the people who have poor attitudes, highly competent, because they need to be motivated. And as a leader, you should be motivating your employees. Or if you have somebody that's lower competency, great attitude, you should be directing them. That's where you should be spending 80% of your time should be spent in those 2 buckets. People that are self-starters, they don't need a lot of time and attention. And people that need to be exited should be exited immediately.
Right. Figure out the plan.
Clear them out. So,
it's funny. The most recent HR team that I dealt with, I mentioned they use the 9 box, and the axes are productivity and potential. And so we were constantly having conversations about employees on, okay, for their particular role, do they have potential to grow? It's kind of the same thing. Are they new? Have they been doing it a while? Are they maxed out? Like there's literally no more they could do in this role. In from an HR perspective, it's around career planning. Like, hey, we got to do something with this person because they are maxed out in productivity, but wide open on potential. They're going to leave if we don't.
Sounds like another grid though, where you can put and play. And that's what I'm saying. There's probably so many for those of you that are out there. There's probably so many grids that are like this. I only use these 2 because these are, especially the one with the employees, is that because I've been around and managing employees for so long, I have found that this has been the most effective and has been the most effective when teaching my leaders, my managers, how to manage their employees. When they're brand new manager, 7 employees, need to manage them. What should I know? Do you have any tips of the trade for me? The 4 boxes. This works. And if you do this, I would guarantee you that you're probably going to improve as a manager overall very quickly. So,
man, and the discipline on the time management is, I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking about, I've tried everything. And I still always
you
wind
have
up
16 boxes.
Well, I used to do, a daily journal where every day it was, here's the notes. Then you move it to
you kept a diary?
No, not.
Hey, Amber, please note that I think we're at the 30-something minute mark. Brian keeps a diary. I want to see Brian's diary.
It's more of a call log activity sheet.
Shift
and then I
notes.
also kept a desk calendar. That became my time management tool. But I always seem to revert back to sticky notes. For some reason, I just get sticky notes all like where they're posted on my monitor indicates how important they are.
What colors?
I've tried different colors. Like if I put it on the floor, that means I got to take care of it when I leave.
That's awesome, though.
Well,
I gotta say,
Not
everyone
some
has
kind
that.
of system.
You can use Brian's methods for time management, or
Maybe
you can
one
use
day
a
I'll do a
proven,
seminar on my
effective way for time management that I just covered off.
Brian, are you going to bring your diary in for the next
I'll do
show
a
and
seminar
tell?
on my time management.
for next show and tell? But
Yes.
hopefully that was.
Let's not start that rumor.
That's not a
I
good.
never
rumor.
did it.
Hopefully that was helpful for people that are out there. I am somewhat concerned about Matt Croak at this point in time. He was supposed to be here 40 minutes ago. So I think we're going to wrap here. But what we'd say is if you're somebody that is pursuing, just kind of a solid approach to managing employees, or you want to think through kind of time management in a little bit more simplistic way of how you can get the most use of your time, consider these strategies. They've worked for me through the years. And even though they may seem basic or common sense, they've worked through the years, and I continue to deploy them in different companies that I've been at. So
I'll take Matt's spot then.
There you go.
Cheers. Like, subscribe, share.
Like, subscribe. Thanks to all you that are out there. We'll see you again soon. Later.